Yeah. I'm gonna need that. Hey everyone. Welcome. Good morning. So, being busy. I mean, it's always every week is busy, but this week is pretty busy. We've got more of the skeleton to go through, and there's a lot of bones, and there's a lot of memorization. It's just how this class is. We have an activity today and tomorrow in class where I need you to come prepared with your bone, your profile for that ligament speed dating thing. So please come prepared with that. What else? Hopefully you all got my feedback. If you gave me a rough draft for activity 4, I've sent you all your feedback. If you can't read something, let me know, and I still have your hard copy. I can give that back to you in lab. But please check in with me. That's due in a week. Have a quiz next week.
Oh my God.
In 1 week, a quiz, your third one. Yeah, on Wednesday. I have, from many people, it includes bones. I haven't gotten feedback from a lot of people about your study questions. You've seen the study guides, right? Yeah? You know that there are questions there that you can answer and send me your answers, and then I can give you feedback, and you're not going to be graded on it. It's just feedback so you can improve yourself and your questions. I haven't gotten very many of those from people. So I really encourage you to do that. You don't have to do all of them. You can just do some of them, or you can do it piece by piece, whatever. I just need you to do it so I can tell you how you're doing. As far as practical, we'll talk about that in lab. But just to remind you, you know that there's this link here that says resources, and that there's a ton of important, useful resources here. Like if you go down to microscopy histology, there's this whole histology guide, microscope images, all these different things to test yourself, and then there's even more down here under practice flashcards and quizzes where you can quiz yourself on the different histology. Pictures that you've seen before, hopefully, stuff like this. You know that's there, right? Yeah? Yeah.
Actually, when I was confused because it doesn't have names. I know it's like for us to quiz ourselves, but it's like different from like picture to picture. Can we have like different names?
What do you mean? The key's right here.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. Key's right there. So yeah, the answers are here. You can test yourself. If there's something missing, let me know, or you can comment. I think you can comment. Let me know, and I'll add it in if it's missing. I just kind of whipped that up in a couple hours. So. The website's gonna help you study and memorize the bone structures. I mean, there's a bunch, but one that you can use, I think, GetBodySmart is a good one. Like if you go to, if you click on skeletal system. Oh wait, no, hold on. No. How do you get to it? Oh, system quizzes. Here we go. System quizzes. And then there's got to be an easy way to find this, but it's somewhere on this page. Why would it go show me neuromuscular if I'm going to skeletal? That makes no sense. There's a bunch of Quizlets out there. I know. Yeah, this is strange. I'll have to look into it. I thought this would be a good resource. It is good for other things like muscles, but there's a bunch of Quizlets. Like this is a TA from a previous semester. He made a bunch of Quizlets. I think they include pictures too. Otherwise, it helps to just make your own flashcards.
Go to Open Lab.
Go to Open Lab. Watch my videos. Stuff like that.
Or use YouTube.
He explains everything.
I'm about to make those videos this week, so. One more thing about studying and how we do these quizzes. I know you all get excited or frightened about the quizzes and practicals. I can't have you talk during. I need you to convince me that you're not doing something that I don't want you to do. You need to convince me that. Or my TAs. My TAs are an extension of me. So if I'm not in the room, if I'm in the room because I'm running the other assessments, you still need to listen to them. Please.
If you think you look sus to me, so don't.
Yeah. And if you're just unsure, then you could come ask one of my TAs or come ask me. Just please ask. If I catch someone talking, if they catch someone talking, it's just going to be an automatic 0. I can't tolerate any, because we don't know what you're doing, and we can't guess. And just if you see talking, see looking around, that's a 0. If you're hovering over somebody's back for following someone around station to station, no, you can't have that. No. You can talk before class, you can talk after class, just not in the assessment. I want you to talk outside of class. If you haven't formed study groups yet, I hope you see the importance now. You need to talk things over. It's the best way to improve your grade in this class. So if you're unsure how to do that, you need to form study groups, and you have to do more than just reading. Reading's okay, but you have to create things. Like, I make you do all these crazy activities in class because I want you to create something that's better for you to remember. I have multiple assessments because if you bomb one, it's not the end of the world. If you didn't do well in this previous practical, it's going to be okay. Because you have more opportunities to improve. Okay, that's my little lecture there. Any questions on what you can do to study or preparation or any other stuff like that? Or?
So the quiz is going to be on just the skeleton.
What's the quiz going to be on? I always forget. That's why I create these study guides. It at least goes through, it probably goes through articulations, which we're going to go through today and Monday. And then,
So for the bones, we need to memorize how they look or where they're located.
yeah, for bones, we need to memorize how they look or where they're located. Yeah.
And
We need
so
to memorize
right
both.
from
Yeah.
Wait, so the quiz will be like,
And categories, yeah.
I said you're gonna eventually have to tell right from left too.
Yeah.
are you gonna have pictures on there or you just gonna have
On the
like
quiz, will I have pictures? So when we talk about the quiz, it's more about like describing structure and how that relates to function. On the practical, it's about identification mostly. I mean, they go hand in hand, but the quiz, it's more about structure and location, how that relates to function. The practical is identification.
For activity for the infographic assignment, when will we get it back and what do they do?
Yeah, the activity for infographic, did you get the rough draft? Did you see my email or message?
No. Because no.
Yeah, if you didn't get a message if you gave me your rough draft and you didn't get a message from me, check your Canvas. I should have given you a message back. I gave you comments. Otherwise, I do have your hard copies and I can give that back to you. It's due in a week. So Wednesday or Thursday.
So we have our next
Monday. Sorry? Monday? Monday or Tuesday? Whatever I wrote on the calendar, let me check. Whatever. It'll help you study. I promise it'll help you prepare for the quiz and next practical. Let's see, what did I write? You all check these. I'm going to keep reminding you, I have these weekly schedules because I forget too. Yeah, Monday and Tuesday. Sorry, Monday and Tuesday. Yeah. That's why I sent you your rough drafts back already. So you can see what you need to do. And if you have questions, come see me. If you want to send me something in between then, please send me something and I can give you feedback. Lab day we'll be able to work on it. That's a great question. I hope so. We've got a lot to do. We've got bones to go through and so on. We'll see. I'll try.
So the quiz is gonna have like the bones, like by then we'll have covered all the bones.
Yeah, by the time the quiz we'll have covered all the bones and joints. Any other questions that I can answer at the moment? What does sample question on the quiz be?
Like on a model, like without looking at it.
Without looking at it, yeah.
And it's on the overreaction.
Well, one, you can check the study guide.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the short answer type of questions. For multiple choice,
Yeah, that's yeah.
like from chapter 7, I asked questions like this. Whenever I ask you questions in class like this, that's pretty reminiscent of what I'll ask you on the quiz. Stuff like that.
So what's the answer?
I don't know, what is the answer?
Both A and B. But no, it's not, or no.
It's A. It's A. Questions like that.
Spinal process is like the dorsal spine.
Dorsal posterior part. All right. We've gone over the axial skeleton. Let's go over the appendicular skeleton. That just means appendages, arms and legs. Axial is your central axis. Appendicular is other stuff. Oh, one more thing. I really encourage you, I'm not requiring this, but I'm hoping to see how many people in this class. 64 names on this sheet. Some of you have actually already met with me, and so if you want to again, great, but if not, it's okay. This is just a schedule of this remainder of this week and next week. Time slots when I'm available to meet either in person in my office or we can figure out a way to video chat, like the Google Hangouts. Just for a 10-minute talk about how you're doing and what you can do to either keep staying your course or improving. You can meet individually or you can meet in groups. I just want you to meet with you. So I'm going to pass this around. I guess it's first come, first serve, so sorry for people back. But sign up for a time to meet in the next 2 weeks. I encourage you to do that. Okay. All right. Here we're talking about the appendages of the skeleton. That includes something called the pectoral girdle. The term girdle just means a supportive structure. So a pectoral girdle is what supports your arm. This pectoral area, pectoral shoulder area, that supports your arm. The pelvic girdle is your hip area that supports your leg. So that's what I mean by pectoral and pelvic girdles. And of course, we will be identifying landmarks. Not every single landmark of every single bone, just the ones I've specified on the study guide. There's way too many. We're just going over some of the major ones. And you will figure out how to size these bones. You know that song, like the knee bone's connected to the whatever bone? I want you people to do that by the end of this class, by the end of this week, I think, yeah.
I'll do it if you do it.
I want you to figure all that out, like how to figure out what's connected to what. Sorry?
Is that our activity that we're doing?
It is one of the activities.
So extra credit.
You're not coming up with the song, no. You're just actually piecing things together. I want you to take a moment, think about how your bones are connected. I know we haven't talked about the names of these bones yet or their features, but I want you to take this fact into account. That shoulder dislocation is the most common, one of the most common, I don't actually have the full stats, but it's 45% of all dislocations. Talk it over in your groups, and I want you to come up with an answer like you're coming up with an answer for the quiz. Why are shoulder dislocations so high? What must be true about the structure of the bones in that area? I want you to think about that and maybe even come up with a counterexample why it's not as common to have dislocations in other areas. I'll give you 4 minutes. Come up with the best answer you can in 4 minutes.
Azim, do you have more?
Not on.
Millennium? Calcium.
You know what? Write out this answer. I want to collect it. Yeah, write out this answer. I want to collect it. One per table, one per group. You should at least have 2 or 3 people in your group. Everyone, if you're answering, really focus on the structure. Like, what about the structure of the shoulder makes it more prone to dislocations than other things? What do you like? Where draw a little sketch? Describe the structure. I know you. Which one is the vibration? What about the structure? What about the structure? Depends if joint something out. I'm hearing some good things like ball and socket and increased flexibility. But there's more than one example of ball and socket. The hip is a ball and socket. But is the hip more or less stable than the shoulder? Why? I need you to write that down.
Why aren't you saying other vitamins? They're not in
About 1 more minute. Please write down your general answers about structure, about how structure relates to increased dislocations. Write your names on it. I'm going to collect this.
I saw what I was I thought it was so disturbing.
All right. Amy's going to come around and collect your sheets. All right. I want to talk each of your groups one by one and start building our answer here. So who can start us off? All right. Go for it. Why are shoulder dislocations more common? What's one factor? One likely thing that you should know?
You said that the shoulder is involved in a lot of movement rather than their joints. So pretty much everything.
Great. Okay, so the shoulder joint is one of the most has a huge range of movement. There's lots of movement. Great. So that's a function. It has lots of movement. Can another group build on that? Why is there a lot of movement? Ian.
And since it's like a ball and socket joint now.
It's a ball and socket. Okay. So what does that mean? We haven't introduced that term yet, but what that means is you've got a ball-shaped. Well, what's this? Any guesses what this structure is called on the end of the humerus? It's ball-shaped. It's a head. So this head fits in to a socket of the scapula. Something like that. So here's the head of the humerus, and here's the fossa of the scapula. Okay, my counterexample to you is that the hip joint is also a ball and socket. But the hip joint is less, not as movable. There's less flexibility between there's less flexibility in the hip than there is in the shoulder. They're both ball and socket. So who can keep building on that? Yes?
We said that the shoulder has more mobility than the hips because the hips are kind of load bearing, so they carry more weight. So that's one of their more primary functions versus the shoulders.
Hips more load bearing. They are, you're right, and so we don't want as much flexibility because we want them to be more stable. That's a function.
There's
Still.
more attachment.
There's more attachment. What kind of attachments? So you're hypothesizing that there are more ligaments. That's one very likely possibility. More ligaments than in shoulder. I saw another hand. Yes, Sarah.
I think it's because of the activities we do. Like most people like exercise and they hold their whole body weight and attaching to something. And like sometimes we carry heavy stuff.
We use our arms for a lot of movement. That's going to the function again. That we use our arms to move around. But what allows for that movement? What structures allow for that movement?
I was thinking like since it's attached to a flat bone, which is just not protect, like it kind of restricts the movement a little.
Attached to flat bones, both the scapula and the part of the pelvis is
The
flat.
clavicle is supposed to like hold it though, isn't it?
There is a clavicle here. There is a collarbone here, and that's for a different motion. So we're going to talk about this later. Like, there's a difference between this and this. So if you dislocate your clavicle versus dislocating your shoulder, those are two different things. So we'll get to that later. We're almost there. I need a little bit more. Yeah.
Is this synovial like membrane?
Is there synovial membrane at both joints? These are both movable joints. There is synovial membrane at both.
So you dislocate it, does that mean you tearing your synovial membrane?
If you dislocate it or you tear the synovial membrane, if it's a really serious dislocation, maybe. Usually you're just loosening the ligaments in the dislocation spot. Yeah. Still haven't gotten the major reason, Jose.
I feel like certain movement makes the head and the shoulder slip out.
Okay, so that's a good point. Okay, so Jose is saying that with certain movement, we'll make the head slip out of the shoulder socket. We still have a ball and socket joint here. Why is this head not slipping out as easily? We're trying to get to that. Marcelino, no? Oh, wait, hold on. You already talked. Both of you already talked. Sarah. Maybe the muscles, maybe there's, so you're saying that there's more muscles in the hip than there's in the shoulder? Or that, so that's another potential thing. I'm going to say that both of these are true, but there are secondary reasons. I'm looking for the primary reason.
Isn't there a girdle?
They're both girdles. They're both pectoral girdle, pelvic girdle. It just means support. Keep.
Because one's more like shallow.
Which one?
Shoulder.
Yeah, okay. There we go. This fossa here is very shallow, meaning it's like this. If you have a ball fitting into a very shallow socket, it's really easy to dislocate. The socket here, it's really deep. It's very hard to move out of. Deeper socket, more stable. Shallow socket, very unstable. But you're trading off flexibility for stability. Make sense? Okay. Cool. Good job. Good job, class. That was great. All right. So, now that we know a little bit about the function of these things, because it's not just in the shoulder, it's not just in the hip, we're going to see this in many of the joints and the appendages. We can talk about what bones make them up. All right, so when we say pectoral girdle, what we're referring to is the clavicle. Clavicle is your collarbone. I want you to know the technical name, clavicle. Clavicle is your collarbone, right here. So one on either side. Scapula, that's your shoulder blade. Got this pointy part back here. That's your scapula. That's your pectoral girdle. Your clavicle and your scapula. They support your arm. And so we'll talk about all the bones of the arm, the upper limbs. When we say pelvic girdle, we're talking about this whole thing is known as the pelvis. The pelvis is composed of the sacrum, which we're saying is axial, again, completely arbitrary. Here's one coxal bone. Here's another coxal bone. So there are three bones that make up the pelvis. The sacrum, one coxal bone, another coxal bone. Coxal, that just means hip. Remember the coxal region? Very beginning of class. And then that supports the lower limbs, the bones of the legs. Okay, starting with the scapula and clavicle. The whole point of them is to stabilize the humerus, and they themselves are stabilized by the sternum. So we went over the sternum the other day. The sternum is right here in front. It has an articulation point with the clavicle on either side. So the clavicle is supported by the sternum. So when we look at the clavicle, that means there's a sidedness to it. I'm going to do my best job to draw this. That's okay. This side that's by the sternum This is the sternal end. The sternal end of the clavicle. This other side, which articulates with the scapula, and the scapula is kind of like this. There's a little protrusion here. This end of the clavicle, that's called the acromial end. Hopefully that term comes back to mind as well. The acromial end, the acromion is this region here. This little protrusion of the scapula, that's called the acromion process. There's a little protrusion here, which will make a lot more sense once we look at the actual bone. There's a little protrusion of the scapula that points anteriorly. That's called the acromion process. Does anyone remember what this little thing here of the sternum is called? The manubrium is, yeah, sorry, the manubrium is this thing, but on the manubrium, what is this feature called? It's the clavicular notch. You'll notice that whenever we name these features where two things articulate, it's usually named after the thing that it's articulating with. So this is the sternal end of the clavicle because it's articulating with the sternum. This is the clavicular notch of the sternum because it's articulating with the clavicle. This is the acromial end because it's articulating with the acromion process of the scapula. Yeah. So you need to know your terms, in short. The scapula, there's another feature kind of hiding here. What I drew over there, where the humerus fits in, there's a fossa here, or a cavity. It's called the glenoid cavity. This is where your humerus fits in. It's that shallow depression. It's called a cavity, but it's really like a fossa. It's a very shallow depression. Cavity or fossa. That's where the humerus fits in for your arm to move like this. Questions? This white thing? This white thing is representing the head of the humerus. Really, it's like a cartilage on top of the head of the humerus, that articular cartilage. And that would fit into the, which you can't really see, that would fit into the glenoid cavity. Again, glenoid cavity is kind of a misnomer. It's not really a cavity. It's like a shallow fossa. Yeah.
So if you pointed like three particles and you pointed at this point, should we say like it's a cartilage or it's the head of the bone?
Yeah, if I point to the center practical and I ask you what is this, if I say what tissue is this, you would say articular cartilage. If I say what bone feature is this, you'd say head. So I'd be more specific. But both are valid questions. All right, going down to the humerus, more distally, I should say. There's our head. You've got these two bumps here called the greater tubercle, and lesser tubercle. Greater is because it's higher up. Lesser, a little lower down. This bump points anteriorly. I want you to pay close attention to where these features are on the bone because you'll need to figure out which side is which. Not only what's proximal, what's distal, what's anterior, what's posterior, but you'll need to figure out left from right. I expect that from you, to figure out which side of the bone is which. So the lesser tubercle, this bump here, points anteriorly. This head, which way does this point? Medially. The head points medially because it's going into your scapula. Which means the glenoid cavity of the scapula points which way? Points laterally. Good. Going more distally along the humerus, we've got some more interesting features here. You'll see this little rounded hook structure. It's more medially. So this is the right bone. There's this rounded hook structure. The term for that is trochlea. Trochlea. Again, CH is a hard CH. Trochlea. The word trochlea means pulley. You ever look at a pulley, it's got a wheel and then you have a string over it? It's that type of idea. Here's the wheel shape. And it allows you to pull your arm up. Because this is your elbow joint. On the posterior side, so this is anterior. On the posterior side, so you can see how the head's going medially. Go down and you have this, this is another bone, but you have this kind of notch here. This is the olecranon fossa. Olecranon fossa. The olecranon fossa is what allows the olecranon process of the ulna to fit in. So the ulna, this pointy part of your elbow, that's the olecranon process. When you move your arm like this, it fits in to the olecranon fossa. You have a protrusion that fits into a space. Olecranon process of the ulna fits into the olecranon fossa of the humerus. Cool? Cool. We will get a lot more practice with the lab and with your fun speed dating thing. All right, these ones are more fun. They get a little harder. The farther out we go, the bones get thinner, and so it gets a little bit trickier. So we have to look at some key features to identify the difference between these bones. Okay, so the two bones of your antebrachial region, the two bones are your radius and ulna. If you're in an anatomical position, radius is more lateral. Or one way that if I ever forget, sometimes I do, hold out your hands like this, the ulna is under. Ulna is medial, it's under. Ulna is under. And the radius, the word radius means like, the radius of a circle. The radius helps you rotate your forearm, helps you rotate your wrist like this. So think of the radius as the one that's rotating. Even more helpful, if you look at the head of the radius, the head is proximal. If you look at it, it looks like a nail head. It's a nice round head. And that allows it to spin as it's rotating. Not spin, but rotate. It allows it to roll over. Okay, so the head of the radius, here's the right anterior view. The head of the radius is proximal. This is the ulna. The head of the ulna is distal. So they're kind of like flipped on each other. Remember the posterior pointy part of your elbow? That's the ulna, that's the olecranon process. And then at both distal ends, both for the radius and ulna, for the radius, you can feel this on your wrist, that pointy part on your wrist right here. That's called the radial styloid process. I don't take Latin or French. Stylo means what? Yeah, pen. It's like a pointy thing. Right here. So it's like a pen point. It's pointy. So styloid, this is the radial styloid process. This is the ulnar, whoops, over here. Yeah, this is the ulnar styloid process. These two bumps that are coming out of your wrist. Radial styloid process, ulnar styloid process. Those pointy parts of the bone. You can see them pointing out here and here. And that's distal. It is a little tricky to figure out which way is anterior and which way is posterior. When we get to lab, I'll show you some features like this little tuberosity that kind of points more anteriorly. For the ulna, it's easier because you got the big olecranon process pointing posteriorly. But we'll figure out the radius in lab.
What was the bump on the outside again?
The bump on the of the ulna? This one?
Yeah.
This one is the olecranon process.
No, it was right here.
Oh, Radial styloid process for the radius. Radial styloid process. Ulnar styloid process. See, radial styloid process, ulnar styloid process.
It's by your thumb, right?
Say it one more time. Your thumb. Oh, I see. Yeah, the radius is on the thumb side. That also helps you if you can come up with a mind for that. Radius is on the thumb side, ulnar is on the pinky side. From anatomical position, because this can twist. Well, I guess it's always going to be on the thumb side, but anyway, it can twist. All right. This is going to get more fun here. They're both styloid processes, one for the radius, one's for the ulnar. All right. Carpal bones. There are 8 of them. 8, right? 8. Yeah. There are 8 carpal bones on either side. What shape are they? Not long. That's why they're short. They're short, so they kind of sharp movements. The carpal bones are a lot like what other bones are short? Tarsal, the ankle ones, tarsal bones. Okay, they have really weird names, so bear with me. Where should I start? Let's go with let's go with your left hand anterior view. Here's my terrible looking hand. Oh my God, okay. All right, I'm drawing them very simply, but we're going to see in lab that they have very distinct shapes. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So very generally, we can arrange them into 4 proximal bones. Sorry, yeah, 4 proximal bones and 4 distal bones. Proximal, distal, roughly 4 and 4. It's kind of a little bit overlap, but we'll figure it out. Okay, this first one, this first S is the scaphoid. Scaphoid. The next one is kind of moon-shaped, I guess. This is the lunate. The third bone is the triquetrum. The way I remember this, because there are 3 wrist bones, 3 carpal bones that start with T. This is the third one, triquetrum. See, I haven't ever think about it. P is for pisiform. Pisiform. So those are the most proximal of the bones. From looking at your left hand, so this is lateral. This is medial. This is distal. Proximal. All right, that's the first row. Next row. This one starts with a T. It's close to the thumb. It's the trapezium. Trapezium is close to the thumb. Trapezium is close to the thumb. The next one is also a T. That's trapezoid. Trapezoid is by the side. It's the third one. That's one I remember last. The trapezium is by the thumb. Triquetrum is the third one on the proximal side. This next one starts with the letter C. Probably. Capitate, right. It says capitate. Whenever you see this root cap, that means head. Like you put a cap on your head, or the capital is the head of your government. Cap is head. So capitate is a head-shaped bone. And then H is the last one. H is for hamate. I don't know off the top of my head what it's called that. I wish I. Does it look like what? Does it look like I don't know. I should look that up. You look at the etymology. If you need help remembering all this, here's the mnemonic that you can use. You have to get the order right. You start down here. Proximally lateral to medial, and then back again. So if the hand is turned over, you should be able to do your mental gymnastics and figure out which side is which and so on. So this mnemonic only makes sense if you have it in this order, like have it in this orientation. So you have to be able to orient the hand.
Says that Latin for hiatus is hook.
Looks like a hook. Hiatus is hook. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see the bones later.
So it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be palm up. This makes sense. Left hand palm up or right hand palm down. I would choose one and then say please. Let's say this. Left hand anterior view, palm up. Left anterior view. Because if you do face down, it's the opposite. You go from right to left. I mean, the order is still the same. You just have to go in the other direction. Just be back. That? Hey everybody, I need to hear the next question.
Okay. So the carpal bones is for my ability for speed dating. How would you describe the shape?
How would I describe the shape of these bones? Well, again, what kind of shape are these? Short.
Okay.
Just fit. They fit into one of those categories, the ones that we discussed.
Like short, long, small, but not like a dog bone or anything like that. Okay.
That you can put in your fun fact or something.
Okay.
Okay, those are carpal bones. We'll go over them later. How about the fingers? Sorry, I'm skipping over. The bones of your palm, those are metacarpals. So we've gone from carpals to metacarpals. You've got 5 of them. The way that we refer to each one, we don't call them thumb, pinky, middle, or whatever. We call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The thumb is 1. So this is metacarpal 1, here's metacarpal 2, 3, 4, 5. It's always that order. Thumb is 1, pinky is 5. Similar for your digits, your phalanges. So what allows your fingers to move. Those are your phalanges. And you can see that for most of your fingers, you've got 3 parts. You've got a distal part, you've got a middle part, and you've got a proximal part. So for phalanges 2 through 5, you've got distal, middle, and proximal. Your thumb only bends in one part. I mean, besides the base, but so there's only a proximal and distal. There is no middle for the thumb. There's no middle phalanx. Here's a another fun thing. Phalanges is plural. Phalanx is singular. So if referring to just one finger, it's phalanx. If referring to all your fingers or many fingers, it's phalanges. It's a weird Latin singular plural Cool.
So when we're identifying the land use of the like index finger, is that distal proximal on that? Like,
And remember, your thumb is called your pollex. Remember, the thumb goes to the palm, it's your pollex. Cool? Okay, take a moment. The carpals move, all of them where the proximal carpals to the raised elbow, the distal carpals to the metacarpals to the metacarpals. Sometimes you can raise your hand a few more times. Okay, that's on 3. 1, 2, 3. Right. Okay. You can change your hand. On 3, say the letter. 1, 2, 3. D. Yeah, this one. Your humerus has the head. Your scapula has the glenoid cavity. That's when you dislocate your shoulder. That's what we're talking about. There is another joint right here with the clavicle and the scapula. That's your acromioclavicular joint. That's for shrugging and doing this, protracting and retracting. That's I mean, you can dislocate a different thing. If you need me to point it out, I'm talking about this right here. Most medial proximal palm. Right here. Okay. Okay, let's see your hands. 3, 1, 2, 3. On 3, say the letter. 1, 2, 3.
D.
A. C. Having is more distal. Pisiform is more proximal. I said proximal. This right here. You can feel it right here. That's your pisiform. We'll get to that later. Okay. Cool. Moving on to the lower body. When we say pelvic girdle or your pelvis, we're referring to this entire thing. We've already briefly talked about the sacrum and the coccyx, so that's part of it. The sacrum and coccyx are part of the pelvis. But then you also have a coxal bone right here. And the coxal bone is one fused bone. but during development, it started as 3 separate bones. It is one fused bone, but during development, it started as 3 separate bones. The coxal bone is one bone in us, but it started out as 3 bones. And you don't need to know the 3 different bones and their locations. The big flat ears of it, that's the ilium with an I. Ilium with an I. If you misspell this with an E, what are we referring to? ILEUM, what's that referring to?
Your intestines.
It's the intestines. So spelling matters. ILIUM is referring to a bone. ILEUM is referring to the intestines. I have no way to remember that. If you have a way to remember that, let me know. The CH is hard. This is the ischium. Ischium is a bit posterior and inferior. And then the pubis is anterior and connecting at this inferior side. Remember, this is the pubic symphysis, where this coxal bone fuses with this coxal bone. They come together. What is this made of? Fibrocartilage. This is made of fibrocartilage. That's the pubic symphysis. Yeah. Oh, that socket, the really deep socket, which is hiding right here, that's called the acetabulum. Acetabulum. Acetabulum.
What are the 2 holes on that?
These 2 holes? These 2 holes, these are called the obturator foramina. Just a heads up, foramen, it means hole. Plural of foramen is foramina. If you're referring to both of them, it's the obturator. Obturator, these holes right here, here and here, they're holes for blood vessels and nerves. And attachments of muscles, yeah. Obturator.
Because it's not one big capsule yet. There's bigger parts as a younger adult, would you be able to have it like that?
As a young adult, they will be fused together. I mean, like early development,
Yeah.
fetal development.
Okay.
And then there's this big hole in the middle here, which we'll get to in a second. Yes. The socket, the acetabulum, it's better seen laterally, but it's here and here. This is where your femur fits in, the head of the femur. The obturator foramina are only found on the coxal bones. It's actually formed by all 3. So the ilium does extend and form a little bit of this corridor, and the pubis and the ischium. So they all form, when they fuse together, they all form the obturator foramen. Does the sciatica go through the foramen? I should know this. It goes through a notch in the back. There's a notch in the back. I don't think it does. No. There's an obturator nerve that goes here. It goes more medially, so it innervates your inner thigh. Your sciatic nerve goes outside, so it's the outside. Yeah.
Are we gonna have to know the foramen?
Are you have to know the foramina? Yeah, that's a big one. You should know that one. Obturator. Okay, so the pelvis is a really important part of our anatomy. It's at the crux of everything. It's holding our upper body up. It helps us walk. And it protects our internal organs. Because of that, because it protects our internal organs, and generally male and female genitalia and reproduction is different, they're going to be slightly different between males and females. Before we can talk about those differences, let's talk about what the names of these features are. This is a superior view, a top-down view. So here you can see the sacrum. So this is posterior. Here's the pubic symphysis and the pubic bones. So this is anterior. If you're referring to the whole space, like including where the ilium wings are, that's the false or greater pelvis. Let me show you a different view. if we're looking at a top-down view of this like from this border, going all the way around this whole big bowl shape, that's the false pelvis. False or greater because it's bigger and higher up. It's called that because technically, here's a lateral view, a sagittal view. Technically, this area here is part of the abdominal cavity. The pelvic cavity is here. And when we look in lab, when we look at actual pelvic bones, we'll see that there's this bigger bowl, but then inside there's an even smaller bowl, which should be here, and that's the true pelvis. If I make a simplified drawing, so this is a top-down view. If I make a simplified drawing from the side, this would be the false pelvis. This would be the true pelvis. This space here is where the actual pelvic cavity. Above it is not. It's an abdominal cavity. It'll make a lot more sense when you actually see a pelvis. I don't know.
So the lesser pelvis is the true pelvis.
The lesser pelvis is the true pelvis. Yeah, true, lesser, they mean the same.
Does that include the, like just looking at it from like the top down and the left side? It just starts right there.
Yeah. This is the border of the true pelvis. And so when you look at it from that view, that border has a name. It's called the pelvic rim. It's called the pelvic rim. This whole area, if we found the area of this circular-ish region, we would call that the pelvic inlet. Pelvic inlet. Think of this as like a basketball hoop. Throw a ball in here. It goes in, but then it can come out, right? When you look at it like a net, it's usually bigger at the rim and then kind of tapers off a little bit. This is the pelvic outlet. That's a pelvic outlet. Pelvic inlet, pelvic outlet, that's the border of the true pelvis.
So just the top part and then it gets like more narrow.
Yeah. Here's the top part, that's pelvic inlet. Here's the outer part, pelvic outlet.
The pelvic rim is like, and it surrounds it.
The pelvic rim is what, if you're looking at a top-down view, here's the sacrum, here's the ilium. It's tracing this circle.
So it's like the membrane.
It's not the membrane, it's the shape. It's the shape. Go on. For the lateral view, how do you differentiate brim from inlet? Brim is more like just think of the brim as the perimeter, and the inlet is the two-dimensional space. So in 2 dimensions, this would be a circular region. This is not a membrane.
No, like this in the sense.
You
find that like that's more inside.
I don't know if I'd use that. I don't use that. Is there another question?
It'll be easier when you see it.
It'll be in your videos, I hope. Okay, whoops. Here's some more views because I knew this would be confusing to visualize. Here in pink, this is the false pelvis. And you can see the pelvic brim and pelvic inlet. Here's the true pelvis. So it's highlighting the difference. And here's a side view. False pelvis is where, here's the tip of the ilium. True pelvis is if you go below the pelvic brim from the inlet down to the outlet. And here's what I tried to draw over here. False pelvis, true pelvis. Okay, so how can you tell the difference, on average, how can you tell the difference between an adult male and an adult female pelvis? In general, You've all probably familiar with that adult females tend to have longer hips. How we can see that? We can see a wider pelvic inlet, a wider pelvic outlet, a larger pelvic outlet. So both are wider. From a lateral view, look at the curve of the sacrum and coccyx. If it points more down, it's pointing more inferiorly, it's more likely female. If the curvature is pointing more anteriorly, so if it curves a lot, like this one, that's likely an adult male. Why is that? More space for holding a potential child. Because a baby's going to be growing in here. You don't want this to get in the way. So in a male, that would get in the way. One more easy way to distinguish male from female pelvises. Look at the angle that the pubic bones make. Look at the angle here. If it's an acute angle, if it's less than 90 degrees, it's likely male. If it's greater than 90 degrees, it's likely female.
Would you ever give us just 1/2?
Would I ever just give you one coxa bone and make you figure it out?
No.
I don't think I'm gonna be that mean. Probably not. Well, you should be able to figure out left and right. We'll get to that later. How to sign it. Okay, we'll continue this slide. See you all there.
But